day early.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exciting. So, because yeah, the time difference. Everyone's on a time difference, but Queensland.
yeah.
Yeah. And Rebecca, how are you? You good? You good? Oh, lies. We've got Shayla joining us today. Welcome, Shayla. It's your first call. Yay, welcome. So good. And Helena's in clinic. Hey, Helena, I left the Shankarpushpi on the table for you. Yes, that's the replacement for the one you gave me.
Thank you.
Trading Ayurvedic herbs. Hey, Haley.
Hi.
Yeah, so your homework come through. Thank you. Amazing. Well, we might get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. And you know what's really, really cool about doing this, the philosophy module at the moment? It's fallen on the celebration of Diwali, which I don't know if many of you guys know about what that is, but it's basically a Hindu festival of lights, and they light all these lamps, and it looks beautiful when you see the pictures. I've never been there myself in this time, but it is a celebration that symbolizes the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance. And, you know, we've been learning about a lot of the mythology where this comes from. And so it's connected actually to Lord Danvantari, who we've been learning a lot about through the festival, like it's a multi-day festival. So through the festivals of the Denteras, which on the very first day, they celebrate the birth of Denvantari, you know, from the churning that we spoke of, the churning of the oceans. And this is why it is an important Vedic festival, but also in the eyes of Ayurveda, because it starts with this, appreciation and celebration of Lord Danvantari. And it also, on the same day of the churning of the oceans, the Lakshmi, so the Vedic goddesses, and Lakshmi is the goddess of abundance. And so this first day is about health and wealth, health and abundance. So it's a really important day of the festival. So I think we're sort of halfway through it because it started this year. It started on the 18th of October. And it usually goes for about 5 days. The dates do change because it is determined by the position of the moon. So and it also marks, I think, the start of their new year as well. Um, so yes, but you know how we were also, before we move on, we are talking about the beauty of really sort of inc immersing ourselves in this ancient, beautiful wisdom and really understanding the roots because this is where it comes from, but also being part of the modern evolution of Ayurveda. And actually, it wasn't until 2016 where they actually classed this day as the National Ayurveda Day. So that's only sort of more of a new modern thing where they called it National Ayurveda Day, which you'll see all over Facebook as well, and Instagram, and when we do our posts. So that decision was made by the Indian Ministry of Ayurveda, Yoga, Naturopathy, um, and homeopathy, some other modalities as well. And they said, okay, well, the observation of these Denteras, that we're going to call this National Ayurveda Day, so that the day of Lord Danvantari. So a little bit of history there, and how our ancient philosophies are emerging into this sort of even this modern appreciation, and how it's like Ayurveda is evolving and growing now, even in these modern which is amazing. So enough of me ranting. Let me share my screen, and then we can get on with the actual class. But I always find it fascinating. Do you guys find it fascinating? All these I'm always learning little bits, to be honest, of little bits and bobs. Okay, now we will start with let me know, how's that? Are my slides good? I've got to move you guys over. Let me see if I can move that down. Does that look good, the slides? Thumbs up? Yeah, perfect. All right, so does anyone want to pop their hand up to lead us in the chant for the Davantari chant? I can't see everyone now. I've got my screen up. Anyone? No? Helena usually puts her hand up. Do you have your hand up, Helena?
Yes, of course.
So just the Om Davantare Mataya Namaha, I think 7 times. I actually popped it on the next slide so that you guys can see all of the words and chant with us. There we go. So over to you, Helena.
So let's put our hands together in front of our heart and take a moment to silence our mind, to calm our body, relax our shoulders, relax our face, and take some deep breaths in and out, bringing your attention to this present moment. Om Dhanvantari Muditaye Namaha. 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 Now we gently open our eyes and relax the hands and arms. That's it.
Thank you so much. And so we start our practice or our study to honor the divine healer in our hearts through the chant. So thank you so much, Helena, for leading us through that one. Okay, so we are on to the second lesson, aren't we, of philosophy? Yes, amazing. So I guess we want to consider what the word philosophy actually is. What is it when we are learning philosophy or when we're teaching philosophy? So it comes from ancient Greek, where philo means to love and sophia means wisdom or knowledge. So philosophy literally means the wisdom or the love of wisdom. So I think that this is such a beautiful and perfect starting point of our Ayurvedic studies, and that's why we start with philosophy in this program, because Ayurveda itself, it isn't just a medical system, it is the philosophy of life. We know the word Ayurveda means the science and the knowledge of life, and that encompasses this philosophy. It's really rooted in this deep like understanding and thirst for knowledge, for truth, and the understanding of the nature of the self with the big S. Remember, we're talking about big S, little s self, and the world around us. So by approaching Ayurveda as a philosophical system, we learn not just how to treat disease, but how to live wisely with nature, with purpose, and in spirit. Yeah. Ayurveda itself is deeply rooted in what are called the Shad Darshanas, or the six classical schools of thought. So these are the six schools of philosophy. Each of these systems offers like a different lens for understanding reality, the self, and the universe. Ayurveda itself largely is based upon the Sankhya philosophy, but we incorporate all six. And so Sankhya, the translation, the Sanskrit translation is numeration. It lays out the dualistic framework of Purusha, which is that consciousness, and Prakriti, which is matter. This, as we know, is a fundamental sort of concept in Ayurveda, Purusha and Prakriti. So it starts from here. Yoga, meaning union, is the practical path of integrating body, mind, and soul, leading to liberation. Now, all of these philosophies and sciences lead to liberation. That's the end goal. Patanjali Yoga's sutras. Now, the yogis in the room, I'm sure you've probably heard of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. These guide this philosophical pathway and are often used alongside Ayurvedic healing. And then we have Nyaya, which means logic or analysis. And this school focuses on reasoning and debate, and it teaches us how to arrive at truth through clear thinking, which is a skill very essential for diagnosis and decision making as an Ayurvedic health consultant or health practitioner. The next one is Vaisheshika, which means distinct or particular, and it explores the atomic and elemental structure of the universe. So this is really relevant to Ayurveda's concept of the 5 elements and the doshas. And then we have Mimamsa, which means reflection or inquiry. It emphasizes rituals, dharma, and ethical living, showing how our action, which is our karma, shapes our reality. And then we have Vendetta, which means the end of knowledge. So this refers to the Upanishadic wisdom that teaches the unity of the self with the universal consciousness. And as I mentioned, Ayurveda draws from all 6 of these darshanas, but specifically Sankhya and Yoga and Nyaya. So together, these systems is what gives Ayurveda its philosophical depth and helps it ground its wisdom, not in just the science alone, but in a way of life that's rooted in this truth and this self-realization. You can see here on the slide the overview of Sankhya philosophy. So it shows that the Sankhya philosophy model of creation, which forms the metaphysical foundation of Ayurveda. So at the very top, you can see Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is that pure consciousness. It's the unchanging, passive observer. It's the male aspect, or the eternal witness, sometimes described as well. And Prakriti is primordial nature. It's the seed of all potential, and it's seen as the feminine or the female aspect. So just like in Chinese medicine, we have yin and yang, that's the same as Purusha and Prakriti. It is a dynamic force that gives rise to the manifest world. So where Purusha is consciousness, Prakriti creates the manifest world. So when Purusha and Prakriti come into contact, this is how that creation begins. So you've got consciousness and matter. The first movement is marked by the vibration of Om, and that's why we've heard that Om in Vedic tradition is known as the first sound of the universe. So when they collided, the sound came apparent, and it gave rise to Mahat, which is the principle of cosmic intelligence or universal wisdom. From Mahat arises Ahamkara, which is the sense of our individual ego or our I-ness, which we discussed last week. And this is where duality and separation begin to emerge in our manifest world. Then from Ahamkara, the five Panchamahabhutas, which are the five great elements, are formed. And they are ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth. From these elements, the manifest world was created, including the soul, Atman, the mind, Manas, the five organs of action. So we have the hands, the feet, the speech, so our sense organs. The five sense organs, such as the ears, the nose, and the eyes. And so the diagram here also illustrates the descent from the unmanifest, so from Purusha, to manifest, and highlights the split between spiritual awareness and ignorance, which is a key teaching in Ayurveda. Remember last week we spoke about why dis-ease can manifest, and it's an insult to our intellect or our wisdom, an insult to our intelligence, our ignorance. Again, key teaching in Ayurveda. When we forget our true nature as Purusha, we become entangled in this material world and suffer imbalance or dis-ease. Yeah. So Ayurveda, therefore, is not just about healing the body, but about reversing this descent and helping us to remember our true nature, our unchanging essence. And that's why philosophy is such a foundation of the Ayurvedic teachings. So, Sankhya philosophy. Does anyone have a good understanding or a brief sentence that they use to explain Sankhya philosophy? No. It's a hard one to explain this. Yeah, Donna's like, no, no way. Okay, so at the heart of Sankhya philosophy is the teaching that Purusha, which is our pure consciousness, and Prakriti, which is our primordial nature, are the only two eternal realities. Everything else, so mind, body, senses, even emotion, is temporary and ever-changing. And then as creation unfolds, each being perceives itself as separate. So we then come into the world or creation and we see ourselves as harmony, like as separate from the two actual realities. And this illusion of separation is driven by ahamkara, our ego or the I maker, which gives rise to individual identity. And it does serve a purpose and a function. We do need it to survive, to evolve in this physical manifest world that we have come in as humans into, right? But this separation, it also can separate us from our eternal truth. However, it is purposeful because it creates the vehicles like the mind, the body, and the senses through which consciousness can express itself. Yeah. So I am a separate human to you, but through me, consciousness can express itself. Through you, consciousness can express itself. So there is purpose in this separation. Ultimately, all of creation is designed, though, to return to Purusha, to awaken from illusion and remember its true nature. This is the journey of evolution and liberation. And we would argue that this is the purpose of life. This is our true purpose. This is our ultimate dharma, to evolve, to grow, to move into liberation, which all of these sciences are helping us get there. However, along the way, we accumulate karma, which is the consequences of actions taken while under the influence of ahamkara. These actions, driven by ego, often pull us further from our source. In human experience, there's a constant tension between soul and senses. The soul seeks this truth and the unity, and the senses seek pleasure and stimulation. And I find I can really resonate with this because often I am seeking a lot of pleasure, a lot of luxury, beautiful things, and doing all the lovely, wonderful things. And then I'm like, oh, am I actually being true to myself? Like, what happened to this sort of earth of the soul, really no attachment type of attitude that I'm supposed to be having? But it's all part of who we are in this existence, in this human existence. And that's why it speaks of duality. Can any of you guys resonate with that? Like fully always seeking this sort of soul truth, but also seeking pleasure and stimulation in this world, and sort of feeling that pull and that divide to try to understand, like, who am I if I want both aspects of self, big self and little self? And is that wrong or is it right? Does anyone have anything that they would like to add to that?
I can see a couple of people on the chat there saying, Danny saying 100%. Yes, totally get that, Harmony. And I'd also like to add, it's like we've got this duality of this philosophy, but the ultimate goal is that yoking, right? It is the non-dual aspect that where we have that oneness, we have that union, but it's both, and it's okay to have both, and it's when we merge that, the light and the dark, when it's similar to how you began your talk today, like and the time of the season that we're in, that we're able to fully step into our wholeness. So it's not one or the other. One is not good, one is not bad. It is integrating them both into our reality, and that is essentially what Tantra is the wholeness of experience. So it's not about judgment. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about abundance versus poverty. It's all the entire experience, and embracing it all for what it is, and loving ourselves and each other through that process. So the Sankhya philosophy is wonderful to explain the nature of reality and understand how we came into existence through this sound vibration, but then we take it even further going into the union.
Yeah, beautifully said. And yeah, the end goal, like we say, is this liberation, is this moksha, which is this union, not the separation. But we're here to experience that separation as well in this human form that we're here to do. But really, the Sankhya, it's about realigning with Purusha, that, the consciousness, calming the senses, dissolving the ego so that consciousness can shine through us as a human vessel in this world. Like, really, that is our dharma. That's what we're here to do. Yeah. And I think we can really overcomplicate our dharma and our existence and what we're here, and have to think of all these big grand gestures. But where's that coming from? Is that coming from Purusha? Is that coming from your consciousness? Or is that coming from ahamkara, our ego? Now, in Sankhya philosophy, all of creation is then broken down into 24 tattvas, or this just means fundamental principles, right? So these are the building blocks of both the cosmos and the human being, forming the metaphysical foundations of Ayurveda. So let's break these down. We have Prakriti. Again, this is the primordial potential. It's undifferentiated, it's unconscious matter. It's the seed of all creation, containing everything in latent form. And then we have Mahat or Buddhi. And this is from Prakriti arises the Mahat or the Buddhi, the principle of intelligence or cosmic order. It represents universal laws and the capacity to discern the truth. Then Ahamkara emerges from Mahat or Buddhi. Generally, when I'm speaking of Mahat, I usually use the term Buddhi, but I'm going to interchange it because you will hear both. So if I'm saying Buddhi, you know I'm talking Mahat as well. So the ego or sense, like Ahamkara, is emerged from this Buddhi. So we have the ego, we have that sense of separation that we spoke of, and it gives that rise to individuality and division, which is key, as Jasmine was saying, for experience of this maternal world. Now, from Ahamkara, we get 3 streams of creation. So we get the 5 great elements, so Panchamahabhutas, the elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth. And then these make up all matter, so physical structures, organs, and the whole world around us. And then we have the 5 Tan mantras. So these are the subtle potentials for sensory experience. So these are sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. We have the 5 organs of perception. So we have our ears, the skin, eyes, tongue, and nose. These are our tools for being able to sense our material world. And then we have the 5 organs of action. So we have our hands, our feet, our speech, genitals, and anus, through which we act upon the world. And then manas, which is our mind. This is the inner processor and the coordinator of the senses, responsible for attention, reaction, and memory. It works closely with ego and intellect. So when we're looking at sort of the basic 3 layers of consciousness, we're thinking of manas, the mind, we're thinking of ahamkara, ego, and we're thinking of buddhi or mahat, that higher intellect. So they're the 3 sort of main levels of consciousness, which we will speak more of in Ayurvedic psychology. But with these 24 tattvas together, they explain how the unmanifest then becomes the manifest. So this is like the slide before where we saw Purusha, Prakriti, and then this becoming the manifest. How consciousness itself is expressed through these, but then how imbalance can occur. And when imbalance occurs, we are guided with these to come up with a diagnosis and treatment in Ayurveda. Hope this is all making sense. It's a big, deep topic. But what I'm actually going to do, I want to throw this conversation over to you guys, and I'm going to stop sharing because I don't want you guys to see this. No, where's my stop share? I'm on a smaller screen, so I'm having to move everything around. I want to ask you guys some big questions because this is what Sankhya philosophy does. It's what all philosophy really does. It gets us to think bigger, okay? It gets us to ask these big questions of life, the life that we're thrown into. So I would love for you to unlock your microphones and give me any answer that comes from your heart, from your buddhi, your higher intellect, wherever it's coming from. I want to ask, who are we? Who are we? Who are all of us? Who are we?
We're an expression of consciousness.
Yeah, beautiful. Who was that, Danny? Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Yeah, we're an expression of consciousness, of divine. Where did we come from? So we're an expression, consciousness. Where the hell did we come from?
Love.
I think we're a part of source energy. I think that source energy is sort of sent parts of itself, which is our soul, here to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Anyone else?
Love.
Love. Yeah.
From love. Yeah.
Beautiful. Sheila, you've got your mic off. Were you wanting to say something, or?
I feel like, yeah, spirit or the infinite.
Yeah. Yeah.
The unknowable. And we're here making it, or understanding it, making it more known.
Yeah, beautiful. And everything that you guys said is right. It's like in the simplest forms, what is love? What is soul consciousness? What is pure form? It's we came from Purusha and Prakriti, right? Because that's the consciousness in us, the Purusha, but the Prakriti is the manifest human vessel with all of our sense organs and so on. So my next question for you guys is, why are we here? And I think this is a big question, and it's a really deep question. Like, why? Why are we here? A lot of us come here, we work, we might have a family, then we die. So why are we here?
We're here
What's
to
the point of us? Sorry, Haley?
we're here to heal. Well, heal
here.
and experience, but yeah, heal, I think.
Heal and experience. Beautiful. Yep.
I think we're here to remember that we are consciousness, that we are energy, that we are universal spirit, and that we are here to experience love in human form.
Yeah. Love it. Shayla?
I feel like we're here to be like embodiments of our own experience of consciousness, and almost just for the joy of it, to like experience the beauty of it and expand on the like positive experience to be consciousness in human form.
Yeah, beautiful. And so from the Vedic traditions and teachings, the reason we're here is because Purusha desires to know itself. Yeah? Consciousness. We're here to get to that moksha, that liberation, which is what Jasmine was talking about, coming from the separation back to union, to consciousness. So my next, yeah, please.
I was just going to say that even just the concept of Purusha and Prakriti is like the beginning of duality. I think that there is, beyond that, there is wholeness. So I think that this Sankhya philosophy is a philosophy of duality, and it starts with duality because it starts with two separate beings that come together through vibration. So I think that beyond that is wholeness. Yeah.
And I would say we've got more, because we're talking about how the manifest world came to be, but before Purusha and Prakriti collide, there's Purusha, which is what you're saying, consciousness. It's our word for that consciousness. Yeah, 100%. And so how does Purusha get to know itself through us? Or how do we get to connect back to Purusha? Because really sorry?
Through the
understanding
senses, yep. And Sis?
Through understanding Prakriti, because she is the creator. So it's kind of without her, Purush can't do anything, but Prakriti is the essence of life and creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so understanding our Prakriti is like the key to samsara and unlocking the whole wheel of coming from the divine down into form, and then the roadmap back to the divine. So yeah.
Beautiful. Because it's about remembering our true nature, yeah? And our true nature is Purusha, it's consciousness. And we can experience that through creativity, through play, because we're here to experience it in this form as well. And so if we're here in this world as humans, where are we going? Where are we? Yeah.
My understanding is that we can't experience as pure consciousness, and so in order for us to experience, we have to come into this form to use our senses and to have our pain body or our ego that shows us the light and the dark, and the duality within.
And then I guess how can we fully, I agree, so how can we fully experience these? How do we know that we are fully engaging in the experience?
Could it be self-realization, like working towards that witnessing of ourselves and that understanding that we are the witness, and through the experience. And I'm not sure if there's like in each lifetime that we work towards realization, we come back with the lessons that we need, whether that fits into the Sankaya model.
Yeah, so I guess if we sort of take it back a bit, so where we're going and the goal of life, from these Vedic traditions is to return to Purusha, to awaken, to shed the illusion, and to realize the self, big S. And so this journey is that of moksha or enlightenment. And so how do we get there? Exactly what you're saying, through self-realization, but the way we get there is a steady journey of awareness. We've got to be aware. So it's through right living. It's through self-inquiry, what we're doing now. Like we are thinking bigger and deeper every day when we're doing this kind of study. It's through healing, it's through spiritual practices. It's really about growing awareness and the process of doing that.
And I'd like to say, I think it's a process of presence, because you've got all the senses so activated, and to come back into Purusha when we're in physical form is through presence, through the sound, through the breath, through meditation. And when you're able to do that, then it unlocks that awareness for that evolution and that self-growth.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I guess if we're looking, with everything you beautiful humans have said, you beautiful souls, you both, we're talking of the heart of Sankhya and the deep purpose behind all Ayurvedic wisdom. And it's really to support the soul's return home. Yeah. And where's home? Purusha, consciousness. Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, I've got to share my screen.
So do you think that we're collecting data for pure consciousness?
Oh, good question. What do you guys think? Are we collecting data? I don't feel, for me personally, I don't feel we're collecting data for pure consciousness, because pure consciousness is pure consciousness. It needs no more. It doesn't need more input, more data. But we're collecting data for the process of growing and our awareness. And in this vessel, we're now Prakriti, has now collided with Purusha, and we've got this physical manifestation of who we are. Yeah, we're collecting data. We're collecting data to help us grow, and the process of awareness to eventually, the goal one day is to get back to Purusha consciousness, not needing any data, not needing anything, because it's pure awareness. It is big, it's deep, it's hard. And that's just my take. Like, I want all, you know, we all, I've never been there. I ain't enlightened. I have no idea what it's like to be enlightened, you know? So we're all learning from each other by asking these questions and philosophizing on these big questions of life. So Helena?
Just complementing this, I think the Sankhya philosophy teaches us that there is something that was still existing, was already existing before this present moment, that is still existing right now within us, and that will still existing, will continue to exist after we die.
Mm-hmm.
And a practical example of that is, as Mel said, through meditation. If we practice meditation, and when I say meditation is a constant practice, it can be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and we made this kind of exercise in one of Mel's class, you will feel and realize that when you were, for example, 10 years younger, there was something equal, that was something inside that is the same, but for that time to now, from that time to now, you learned a lot of things, you collect data, you are different. So if you think 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 50 years ago, it changed because you collect data, you learn, you grew, as Harmony said. We are here to grow. And we can use this understanding to think that this soul, or this thing that is unchangeable, was the same, not 50 years ago only, maybe 500 years ago, maybe 5,000 years ago, maybe 5 billions of years ago. So that's, I think, a practical example of what we are talking about. We are here to grow, but there is something that will still exist after we die. I think that's the way I understand the Sankhya philosophy in this context.
Yeah. And talking about collecting data and growing and not being the same person you were 2 years ago, you're not going to be the same person you were at the start of this lesson, because you now have thought deeply, and, you know, we've had these discussions with this philosophy and this ancient wisdom. It's now ingrained into ourselves. It's changing us on a cellular level when we have this depth of self-inquiry. So who you were, 45 minutes ago, is not who you are now. And
so true. I think one of the most beautiful questions you can ask yourself in meditation is, where is my center? Where is my center? And also, where is my periphery? Where is my periphery? And from there, understanding that in this, we are boundless, we're timeless, and we're spaceless. So, but just to experiencing that yourself through meditation, through being in Shavasana, through being very present, like Mel said, like that's a touch into this awareness, an experience of this awareness that you can feel. And you might have a center and you might have a periphery, but understanding that we are timeless, we're boundless, and we're spaceless at our soul level.
Beautiful. So that's a beautiful way to wrap up Sankhya philosophy. And now we're moving into the philosophy of yoga. Yeah, because it's one of those darshanas. And to start with this philosophy, I want to bring your attention to a really well-known and essential verse of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and that is Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And this layers the foundation of what yoga truly is. And that is that yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. So yes, it's union, and it has these different aspects, but it is also attained by eradicating the disturbances in the mind. So if we break up this beautiful verse and we look at the word chitta, and chitta means the mind stuff. It's our thoughts, our emotions, it's our memories, it's our sensory impressions. It's that subconscious layer where those samskaras, those impressions lie. And vrittis are the waves or movements within the mind. So the patterns, the habits, and the disturbances. Nirodha means stilling or quietening, restraining. So yoga isn't just about physical postures, which a lot of us in the West have come to understand yoga to be. So often I'll say, do you guys consider yourself yogis? And some of you might be like, nope, I've never stepped foot on a yoga mat. But that doesn't necessarily make you a yogi. According to Patanjali, yoga is a state of being. It's a state in which the mind becomes quiet and we return to the stillness of pure awareness. Union. Now, this sutra is deeply aligned with Ayurveda because both systems recognize that a disturbed mind is the root of disease, and a still mind is the ground for healing and liberation. A big bird just flew past. So when we remove the disturbances through breath, through meditation, through ethical living and awareness, we don't become someone completely new. We just remember who we already were. And that's that returning back to pure consciousness. So as we said just before, like we're not the same person. I know this sounds contradictory, but we're not the same person as we were 45 minutes ago, because we're not the same person we were in that growth phase. But what that growth phase is doing, and when we can still the mind, we're actually returning to who we already were, which what Helena was saying was that consciousness. Purusha is that pure consciousness and awareness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So more on the Yoga Sutras. It's one of the most important classical texts on Raja Yoga, and the path to meditation as well, and liberation. It lays out a structural method to attain that self-realization. So coming inwards from the outer world and returning back into that soul essence. Patanjali was the sage who compiled this work, and he gave us this eightfold path, also known as Ashtanga Yoga system. So that is not to be confused with the modern style of Ashtanga Yoga, which is that very regimented, intense yoga style, but rather the classical 8 limbs that lead to spiritual liberation or to moksha. So let's walk through these 8 paths, and then we're going to break each one down. But just as an overview, the eightfold path leading to self-realization starts with the yamas. So these are the moral disciplines or ethical restraints, such as non-violence, truthfulness, non-possessiveness. And the yamas really guide how we relate to the world. Then we have the niyamas, and these are the internal disciplines like cleanliness, contentment, self-study, and they purify the mind and the heart. Then we move to asana, and this is what most people believe yoga to be, is this one limb of the 8 path. So asana is the postures and the physical postures that you might see in a yoga class. But it also refers to a steady and comfortable seat. So preparing the body for stillness and meditation. Because the main posture is just your seated posture. It's not a fancy eagle pose or warrior 3. It is the seat to prepare you for stillness and meditation. And then we move to pranayama, which is the control and expansion of life force through the breath. This calms the nervous system and balances energy. And I'm sure you've all heard me talk about pratyahara. And pratyahara refers to the withdrawal of the senses. So it's turning inward. We move away from all of the distractions. And when we practice the concept of pratyahara, we begin to access the deeper layers of awareness. And then dharana, which is concentration. This is where the mind learns to focus on a single point. And we want to really train the mind to become steady and undisturbed. Because to get to the next evolution, which is dhyana, we need to first be able to practice dharana, which is focus and concentration. Now, dhyana is the meditation or the sustained flow of attention. So it's not effortful. It's not like I've got to really create a lot of effort to concentrate, but it's just this deep absorption of this sustained attention, just being fully attentive, deep focus. And then through this 8 path, we come to samadhi, which is the state of oneness or union. So this is where, and this is why we say yoga is union. It's that oneness. This is what this pathway is helping us do, reach moksha, liberation, oneness, samadhi, union. And here is where that separateness between the observer and the observed dissolves, and we rest in that pure awareness, which is our true self, which is that whole journey of why we're here, to return to that true self and the understanding of. So this 8-fold path is the spiritual complement to Ayurvedic healing path. And they both lead us back to balance, awareness, and ultimately to freedom, which is used, freedom, the term can be used as enlightenment, as moksha, as liberation, as samadhi. It's all the same thing. And then within the yoga philosophy and the yogic tradition, there are 4 main paths that lead to the same goal. And that's transcending the ego and realizing the self. So each path honors a different, approach to spiritual growth, because not everyone reaches truth in the same way. Not everyone is going to, all of these paths will lead to the same destination, but we're not all going to choose the same path because we're all different. Yeah? We all have different constitutions. We're all different makeup. And the way we get there isn't as important as getting there itself. And so the Vedic traditions teach that we can get there from the yoga philosophy, through karma yoga, which is the path of selfless action. So this is the like yoga in motion, doing your work in the world without attachment to results. So this is through service and surrender. And by doing this selfless service, we allow the ego to dissolve, and action becomes a path of purity. And then we have the bhakti yoga. And this is a yoga of devotion and love. So this path is really centered on surrendering the ego through heartfelt connection to a teacher or a deity or divine. It's really a practice of full devotion, dissolving separation through prayer, through ritual and worship. And then we have Jnana Yoga, and this is the yoga of wisdom and knowledge. This is the most intellectual pathway where the seekers inquires deeply, asking those questions we just asked. So we've actually just practiced a pathway of yoga in this class. Today we asked, like, who am I? You know, what is real? Like these big questions. And this type of yogi does this through study of the scriptures, through self-reflection, through this type of study and this practice. And therefore the ego is dissolved by the light of truth. And then we have Raja Yoga. This is both like a scientific and a meditative path that includes the 8 limbs, starting from ethical living and leading to deep states of meditation and union. Each path addresses a different part of the human experience, action, emotion, intellect, and their meditative experience. And so one may resonate deeply with somebody and not somebody else, but ultimately they all work together to guide the soul home to self. Ayurveda supports these paths by preparing the body and mind to walk them with clarity, energy, and balance. So together we bring Ayurveda, we bring yoga. These are the 2 of the 3 Vedic sciences. We've got Ayurveda, we've got yoga, and the Jyotish astrology, and the 3 sciences are all pulling on these foundations of philosophy. And either of those sciences will bring you to the ultimate goal of moksha, of liberation. But when done together, it says you get there quicker. So who here considers themselves a yogi? Hands up, put it in the chat box. Andrea does. We've got Emma. Okay, so we've got 2 people. Susie, surely you consider yourself a yogi. Did you put your hand up? You're on mute. I think I saw you talking, but you're on mute, Suze.
I think I'm a practicing yogi. I think I get a little bit, a yogi to me is, I'm totally devoted to yoga. Yeah. But a yogi is like, so I'm sorry, I'm just being a bit wordy. it's just wordy. But yes, I practice yoga and I share yoga.
So you're a yogi. Awesome. Could we all be yogis? Are any of us taking sort of one of those paths? Remember, it's not about going to a yoga class. Is deep in the study of Ayurvedic philosophy an aspect of being a yogi?
I think that there's a misconception of what a yogi is. And essentially, yoga asana, the physical practice of yoga, was created so that we can sit in meditation for long periods of time and be comfortable in our own body. And the same with Ayurveda, it's about being able to actually be healthy enough to experience ourselves and that oneness and that wholeness through having the vessel being healthy so we can experience ourselves as spirit. So if we are on the path, then we're practicing a form of being a yogi, but it's got nothing to do with that level of asana and more to do with the other 8 limbs of yoga.
So Mother Teresa gave us self and selfless service. Essentially, she was practicing karma yoga. I can't see Mother Teresa doing the splits, Hanumanasana. And I've never seen a picture of her doing like dancers posed. But ultimately, she's a yogi, right? Because she had this sense of selfless service and a path of devotion to her practice. Yeah. So moving on from whether we believe we're yogis or not, I feel we're all we're all on that path right now. We're all here together.
Could we maybe for those that don't really resonate with the word I'm a yogi, like for me, when I think about I'm a yogi, I find some resistance. But when I think about it with everything that you're saying, I think about it as like I'm a light being out here to do service, to support humankind, to support the collective consciousness, to elevate the consciousness, to be of that service, of that light and that love. That there to me resonates so much more. And I know it's just titles as opposed to the title of a yogi.
Yeah. I mean, you can label it whatever resonates, whatever feels good, and that again, that's just that understanding of the ahamkara not allowing us to be really absorbed in that union, like to it's pulling, and again, even yogi is a title, right? It's just it's a word that we've given, has been given to us to explain all of these different pathways and processes, and it's not going to resonate with a lot of people because of also the way that we view what yoga is in the West, which is the postures, the asana practice of yoga. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's beyond labels. And talking more about like the principles of yoga and where they get us, we can see here it's like the union with the divine. It's the union, it's consciousness, yeah, union with the divine, us. And so what you're explaining, Mel, is exactly that. And then at its heart, we understand that yoga is union. It's the union of the individual soul with the divine or Purusha. But this union, it's only possible, as we mentioned, when the mind becomes quiet, when the disturbances or the vrittis are cleared. So this slide outlines the core principles that support this inner journey. And it says that first we need faith or shraddha. Faith in the process, in the teachings, and in the self. Faith is the foundation, especially when the path becomes difficult or unclear. We have to have faith in the process and the teachings. And then comes effort or strength, virya. It's the will to continue, because as we mentioned earlier, we're here to experience. And not all experiences are going to be easy, because that doesn't facilitate growth. Yeah? And so we are going to come up with some things that are difficult on this path, just in life in general. And it's our will to continue. And this is where the transformation takes work and it takes discipline and resilience. And then we have the study of scripture and learning, svadhyaya, which sharpens our mind and keeps us connected to timeless wisdom, Ayurvedic wisdom. And through this, we remember who we truly are. It's all about returning to self. And then concentration is the practice of focusing the mind. It's not just about meditation, but being fully present in everything that we do. And someone mentioned presence. One of you beautiful ladies mentioned presence earlier. And it's so true. It's creating that balance and that harmony between our mind, body, and actions when we're really present in everything. And finally, the path demands discrimination. Viveka is a Sanskrit word, and it's the ability to clearly see the difference between the real and the unreal, the self and the non-self, the divine truth and the worldly illusion. We need that discernment. And these principles, they help us to purify the mind, align with our higher self, and support the ultimate healing goal of both yoga and Ayurveda. And what is that? What is the ultimate goal? Said it quite a few times. Someone yell it out. What is that ultimate goal of all of these sciences, these philosophies? Where are they all leading us to?
To Purush.
Purusha?
Yeah.
Yeah. Purusha, consciousness, complete awareness, liberation, moksha, however we like to see it. Okay. So now we're going to look more in depth at what these steps are in this eightfold path. The first one is the yamas and the discipline. And really we have to, I'm not going to say master, I'm just trying to think of a better word. I was going to say master these yamas to really sort of be able to move to the next limb, but you don't have to master them. You just have to put them into practice. The yamas are disciplines, they're our ethical foundations. And these are the 5 yamas. We have ahimsa, which is non-violence. So this means not just physical violence, but also violence of our thoughts, of our speech. So we want to bring kindness into our thoughts, into our word, into our action. Practicing ahimsa creates an inner atmosphere of peace, which supports healing and can reduce that internal conflict that can lead to disease. Satya, another ethical foundation. This is truthfulness. So it's speaking and living in alignment with your truth. And this includes being honest with ourselves, which is the essential part of real growth and transformation. It's also being truthful with others. And then we have brahmacharya, which is moderation or wise use of energy, but traditionally it was linked to celibacy. And from my understanding, the sutras of Patanjali were, I guess, sort of like these ethical disciplines and foundations back in the day for monks, and they did practice this celibacy. So in this more modern world and more broadly put, it means mastery over our desires and channeling our energy towards our higher or towards a higher purpose. And by doing this, it supports mental clarity and physical vitality. So there is truth in, celibacy in the way that you're not going out there and just like shagging around. It's like you're putting that energy into the person that you wish to have that relationship with, but also any desire. We're not being so distorted by our desires that we can't put in the restraint and the control around them. And then we have asteya, so non-stealing. Now, this is not just of physical objects, but it's respecting time. It's respecting people's energy and resources of others. It's also about not just taking more than we need. And this is something Ayurveda emphasizes through a balanced lifestyle, through diet, you know, not over consuming anything. And then we have aparigraha, and this is non-possessiveness. So it's letting go of clinging to things, to attachment, whether those things are people or material things or even identities, you know? So this principle, it really invites in that freedom and lightness and creating space for deeper awareness, because we're not attached to having multiple identities or having all of these things attached to people. So there's this sort of spaciousness of what is. The yamas, they're not just moral rules, they're really energetic guidelines. And when we follow these, we can purify the mind and create the foundation for deeper yogic and Ayurvedic practices. So this is our first step, our first principle, is to look at these ethical foundations and disciplines and start to implement them into the way that we show up in the world. So what I would love for you guys to do is, out of these yamas, choose one of these that you're really going to focus on this week and write it in the Facebook group. Go and pop it in the Facebook group and say why this is the ethical foundation for your week, why this yama means a lot to you to put into practice, because this is the embodiment of the practice. And so when we can actually say, okay, I've been talking really negatively about myself in a really verbally violent way, so I'm going to practice ahimsa. And I'm going to let my peers know that, because that keeps me accountable, keeps me disciplined in the embodiment of this practice. So I really encourage you guys to take these embodiment practices and apply them to your life. I'm just checking the chat. There's some, oh yeah, Haley wants to join a yoga class. Good. Oh, it's awesome. So we're talking mostly, I'm just checking the chat, guys, to see if I've missed anything. So anyone here, just to break it up a bit, to so it's not just me talking, are any of these standing out to you that you want to embody, that you want to practice, and why? Someone unmute their mic and let us know what's standing out to you. Shayla?
For me, is the, I think I'm going to say it wrong, the last one, the apiragraha.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, really resonated with the non-attachment to the identities, like, yeah, not attaching to like this idea of my life, or like the idea of who I am in my life, as my mind can, like, I'm in this very big transition period right now and moving, and my mind's like creating this whole new life in my brain, and just wanting to more be like, yeah, present and in flow, and I guess in service to, you know, spirit, in service to just the earth and life, and not, yeah, just less attached, so I can be more attuned to what like wants to be, not what I want it to be.
I love that. Beautiful. I don't think you're in the Facebook group yet, are you? Make sure you join. The links
No, I'm
are
not yet.
Okay, well, make sure you join, because we want to hear an update on this. We want to know how you're going with with this practice. Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else? Thank you so much, Shayla, for sharing as well. Would anyone else like to share? Rebecca, you got your mic off?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to unmute. Something's going wrong with my computer. But anyway, now I'll get the mic. So yeah, it's interesting. A lot of thoughts have been coming up, this morning, this session, because I teach yoga. But at the same time, I'm very much like still deepening my knowledge and, really trying to embody it over the last, few years, really. Because, yeah, I really want to get away from that notion. People come in and they go, oh, I'm not that flexible. So all of this wisdom I really love. And even just this morning, just, these last few slides, what you've been saying, I'm actually thinking a lot of yoga teachers really need this as well, that truthfulness, and also even the asteya, the non-stealing, like in a way they, there's all this competition, and I've experienced it, yeah, it's really interesting. So I think a lot of them are really missing the point. But again, that's just sort of, but I want to make sure, again, I've taught yoga, then came lockdown, and I'm really just getting back into it because I had a real big breakthrough in lockdown, I think, just about that being and that coming from that full vessel and being truthful. For me, it's all about that truthfulness. So yeah, just really wanting to relay that knowledge with anyone who comes my way. So it's really lovely to have this here. Like you say, yoga, and I always say this is just 1 hour on the mat sharpening your tools. Yoga is everything of your life when you're stepping out. Like last night I was teaching yin and we started later. I don't know, tell me if I have to stop. If I'm, just also bringing as you say, like Mel said, it's awareness. Like last night, we started a bit later because at a community centre, and then I thought, okay, I'll give them the full hour, but I didn't warn them saying, look, I'll go 5-10 minutes over, and then someone in the back corner was just getting up, and I went over and said, oh, everything all right? And I didn't expect her to bite my head off. She's like, well, I've got meetings and now I'm stressed again. And I was like, whoa, okay. I felt like saying, okay, maybe you need a bit more yoga. This. But again, no one really noticed it, but I then shared saying, just again, having that awareness when you step out, this is to ground you, to bring that, I suppose, that awareness. So if you're stepping out and if something then triggers you, maybe just take a breath and notice that. I sort of used that reaction of this person to then also bring it into the yoga class in a nice way, just because I think a lot of people, they do this meditation or do that and then they step outside and they're,
Yeah.
There.
Lots of things can come up for people when they open the channels and the pathways through this work.
Yeah, so just noticing your responsiveness or your reaction to it,
Yeah, beautiful.
I often compare it to like, in the olden days, the Catholics, they'd go and, what do you call it in English? Confession. They go to confession, but then they'd sin during the week. Oh, we can go to confession. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the growth that we've been talking about, and through what Ayurveda and yoga does really well is it sets a pathway of how to apply the wisdom so that you are consciously growing and not just, like you said, go to confession or a yoga class or do a meditation a week and think that that's just going to rewrite everything constantly all the time. It's about learning.
How do you show up in between?
Yeah, and that's why I want everyone in this class or anyone watching the replay, when we're talking about yoga, I really want you to sort of get it out of your head of it being a yoga class, because what we're talking about right now is a part of yoga. And I'm not sure if Shayla's a yogi or not, as in a yogi that goes to a yoga class, but she's already said that she's going to be practicing a parigraha, non-possessiveness, and she's really going to be focusing on that. So she is, through the path of yoga, working on her evolution and her growth without stepping on a mat. And that's what I want you guys to really think about. You know, don't sort of pigeonhole into, oh, I teach yoga, I don't teach yoga, these two groups in this academy, because we all are doing the path of yoga. We all are on the path of Ayurveda, the Sankhya philosophy, all of the things that make up what we are embodying through these teachings. So thank you. And I think there was Donna, did you have something to say? You had your mic off before. What one were you going to implement?
Thanks, Harmony. That was beautiful, Rebecca. Really lovely. Really, really good job. I'm going to be practicing Hamsa. How do you pronounce it?
Ahimsa.
Ahimsa, yes, the non-violence, and the non-violence is myself, because I've had a situation that I've been working through, and I've had some body changes, which it's placed me in a space of uncomfortability massively. But I've turned a corner, and I'm coming around to being accepting and being loving, and just I was actually listening to your podcast this morning, Harmony, and I just resonated so beautifully with it. And I thought, oh, that is me. That is where I've evolved to, and appreciate where I am right now and what I've experienced. So that's me. I'm going to be all about non-personal violence and loving all of me, how I am right here, right now.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Did anyone else want to share before we go to the niyamas? No? Okay, we'll go to the next one. The niyamas. Oh, devotions, disciplines, or personal devotions. So this is the second limb. And as it says, it focuses on inner disciplines or personal devotions. So when we look at the yamas to the niyamas, the yamas guide how we interact with others, as well as ourselves, but with others and the world around us. And the niyamas, they guide how we relate to ourself and our spiritual path, or our path of evolution. So the first one is sukha, which is purity or cleanliness. This in itself refers to both external cleanliness, such as caring for our environment that we're in, the world that we're in, our body, and also internal purity. So maintaining clear thoughts, emotions, and following that sattvic lifestyle, that inner sattva. So we can see that if we relate it to Ayurvedic practices, it's very much deeply linked to our daily routines, dinacharya, and our Ayurvedic nutrition, our diet, which help us to cultivate sattva internally. The next one is santosha, which is contentment. And this is the practice of accepting what is with grace and gratitude. It doesn't mean like to be passive and just to accept whatever crappy situation you might be in, but you have to accept that that is what's going on. And so it means finding peace in that present moment, which stabilizes the mind and supports healing. Yeah. I also I love the concept and the practice of santosha, and it's something that I'm constantly practicing, I would say, because as a pitta and a bit of a go-getter, I do find that I'm not always content. I'm always chasing bigger things, more goals, and sometimes I have to sit back and really focus on santosha. I mean, even I think eBay handle is santosha and sunshine. Like it's such a thing that I'm always constantly sort of practicing. And in the book that I wrote, the Ayurveda and the Alchemy of Her, I remember someone I interviewed for that book, she was talking about like how we seek and search for happiness. And she's like, well, I think that's like a misdemeanor. It's really searching for contentment, which is santosha. And I find that so true. If we can really practice the concept of santosha, of contentment, then eternally we can be happy, because we're not trying to seek this overjoy aspect or anything outside of us, because we're content in where we are, who we are. And it's a really beautiful, peaceful place to be. And then there's tapas, and this is really that self-discipline. It's the inner fire, it's the willingness to do the work even when it's uncomfortable. Like I said, we are going to be in uncomfortable positions in our life. Life isn't just going to be easy all the time. And it's finding that discipline, that tapas, that inner willingness to work through it. And that even applies to your study, to this, to your course, to your self-study. The willingness to put in the discipline, to create time, to do the practice. That's with your dinacharya, that's with anything. So whether, you know, you say, oh, I know I've really got to do, you know, add some meditation practice, even if it's 5 minutes a day, and then you know that, so your wisdom, your intellect is telling you, but the next day rolls over and you just don't find the time, you got busy, and then the next and the next, that's not applying this principle. You're not putting that tapas, that self-discipline in place to create those healthy habits, which will strengthen both your body and your mind and your spirit. And then there's swadhyaya, which is self-study. And so this is the practice of studying sacred texts and turning inwards to understand the self. This program is all based on the sacred texts, the Vedas. So this is part of self-study, but it's not just showing up to the lectures. It's really diving deep into the knowledge and then applying it and understanding the self through the text. So it involves the piece of reflection, of journaling, mantra repetition, which we do, and studying the wisdom that reveals who we truly are. And this beautiful one, which I always mispronounce, but Ishvara Pranidhana, how'd I go, is the devotion of the divine. So this really is talking about surrendering the ego to something greater. It's offering all of our actions to the divine, to being part of consciousness, Purusha. This is where we really sort of cultivate that humility, the trust, and the connection with our higher purpose. So it's being devotional in everything we do in our practices. Together.
Harmony, can I share something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just, one way to remember this that always helps me, and also when I'm in a moment where I really need to surrender, I kind of just put my hands up and say to Ishvara, to Ishvara, to Ishvara Pranidhana. And it's just like, it's to the divine, it's to just surrender, because there's nothing else left to do. I think we've all probably been there. So a good way to remember this one is to Ishvara. Ishvara. That's it.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think we get so caught up on trying to micromanage and control every outcome, every aspect of our life. And we can't. We have to surrender. We have to honor the greater consciousness that is, that, you know, we are surrendering to, our actions to. But I like that. I like Ishwa. So that's a good one. So when we start to put these into practice, these disciplines or these personal devotions, it helps us to refine our inner world and build strength and clarity and devotion. Yeah. Which when we look at it through the Ayurvedic lens, it forms the foundation for a life of meaning and health, really. Without these, we can't put in the willingness to learn. We can't put in the discipline to do our dinacharya. We can't surrender over to the divine. We're not content in who we are. Like, without all of that is destruction. And so this gives us a very clear pathway and a very clear guide onto how to create that inner calm, these inner disciplines that are going to really help us with the foundation of our life. So again, who would like to share which one of these that they are going to focus on in the coming week or this week, the rest of this week, to really sort of understand the practice and to go deeper on these concepts? Would anyone
I'm happy
like
to.
Yeah, Donna?
Yeah, look, I love the hint about the Ishwara Panda.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lady's name? I'm sorry.
Jasmine.
Jasmine. I love that. Thank you so much, Jasmine. That's going to be my big focus. And also the tapas, the self-discipline, because yeah, a little bit like you, Harmony. I'm always looking for the next. And it's a big reminder just to stop, to settle, Donna, and complete one task at a time, complete it to your heart, be really heartfelt and intentional, a real focus on intention as well. I'll be wrapping up into my devotion for the week. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm loving these. I've actually been, I guess, not realizing I was what the principles were, but I've actually been doing it. I've been very aware. I've had a situation going on here while this has been going on, and I've just been able to remove myself from the energy and stay focused. So this has been really, really timely and a great exercise for me, practicing where I've actually come from just in a couple of weeks. So since we've been doing this, and I've had a consult with you, Harmony, and just the energy of this incredible experience. Thank you.
I love that. Thanks so much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Thank you. And yeah, let us know how you go in the Facebook group as well, because I
will.
really love seeing the practices being embodied, not just on the call, but like then moving through us day to day, so we can sort of witness this personal growth amongst each and every one of us. So love that.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Helena's I'm just on the chat, just catching up in there. So Helena said, regarding being a yogi or a yogini, yogini for women, I would recommend the book Yoga Morality. Oops, someone's commented, so it's gone. Yoga Morality, Ancient Teachings of a Time of Global Crisis. Oh, I haven't read that one. Love that. And Emma, she is going to be practicing brahmacharya and tapas. These are some desires that have slipped back. There are some desires that have slipped back in my life since moving back to Australia. So I'll be practicing tapas to help me use my energy wisely. Beautiful, Emma. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. Okay. Now, okay, we're back. This must be a double up of that slide. We've just gone through. I don't know why that slide's there. We'll ignore that one. Okay. So, Hatha Yoga, which we did mention earlier, this is a really powerful system of physical and energetic practices rooted in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is a classical text written by Swami Swatmama in the 15th century. So, Hatha. The word hatha, it's often translated as forceful, but at a deeper level, it means the union of opposites. So ha, H-A, ha is the sun, and ta is the moon. So it's balancing that masculine and feminine energies, active and passive, and the body and the mind. What hatha does is it provides the tools to prepare the body and the energy system for deeper states of meditation and realization. So as Jasmine mentioned earlier, the goal of asana and these postures was to be able to sit in meditation for a longer period of time. So when we look at hatha yoga, it does have a basis in those asana practices, and so they're not just for flexibility or strength, which was Rebecca, one of your students, came in and said, or they're not going to be able to do yoga because they're not good at flexibility. So whilst a lot of people think that doing the asanas, doing the different postures are to help with just strength or flexibility, they're actually designed to purify the body, to calm the mind, and to open the energy channels, which we call nadis, so that we can be more open and receptive to be in a meditative practice. Part of hatha is also different purification techniques, which are called kriyas, and these will include practices like neti, so nasal cleansing, Dwati, which is stomach cleansing, Kapalabhati, which is the breathwork practice, also known as skull shining breath. And these can help detoxify the physical and subtle body pathways. So whilst we have the asana practices, within hatha yoga, there is also the practice of these purification techniques, so these kriyas. Then we speak of the bandhas, which anyone who has done the ISL Vedic Breathwork Practitioner Program would know about the bandhas. We talk about these in depth, and these are the contractions that we use, or the blockages that we use in the body, consciously use, to direct pranic flow to help either raise kundalini or access different pranic energy centers within the body. And so we have with the bandhas, we have Muladhara Bandha, which is the root lock, so the perineum, the area of the perineum. We have Uddiyana Bandha, so this is the abdominal lock. We have Jalandhara Bandha, which is our throat lock. We have Mahabandha, which is being able to lock all three. And so this will direct different pranic flows in the body for multiple different reasons that we use that. Whether we wanted to direct prana upwards or awaken kundalini energy, from an Ayurvedic perspective as well, if we're trying to support and heal different conditions, such as maybe a uterine prolapse, well, we know that we need to protect the energy, and the way that we can do that is apply different bandhas so that we don't have too much of that apana, downward energetic motion, because that's, part of the imbalance that has caused the uterine prolapse, for instance. And then another aspect of hatha yoga is mudra. So these are gestures, and mudras are the gestures we use with our hands, and they also help to stabilize or to guide different pranic flow. And in the Vedic Breathwork Practitioner Program, we learn about each of the finger represents a different element. So say we're placing the earth and water element together, we are also being able to support the kapha dosha. Yeah. So the mudras, they not only help to flow prana, they also support focus, they support our constitution, the doshas, and the energetic balance that we require. So really, I guess, hatha yoga, it is a bridge between the physical and the spiritual awakening of us. It purifies, it lines, it energizes the system so that we can move towards more of that inner stillness and union with the divine. Again, the yoga path of union. So as an Ayurvedic consultant or a practitioner, we can use these practices and prescribe these practices or tools to help regulate the doshas, clear stagnation, and to support mental clarity. Has anyone had experience practicing any of the purification techniques? Yeah, Suze? Yeah, Donna, which ones do you guys do? Suze?
I studied Tantric Hatha Yoga. So all of these are a part of that. So yeah, in the training I did, I bring a lot of it into every yoga class that I share. And it's, yeah, a big part of my own personal practice. So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
In Ayurveda, we do a lot of the purification techniques, as you guys know. As part of Dinacharya or as part of even the Panchakarma service as well. Donna, what are you doing in the form of Kriyas?
Yeah, look, I've been, I haven't studied Kundalini yoga, but I've practiced it for going on 6 years now.
Yeah,
For quite a while, I was every day religious. I would do it, and I'd go to a class once a week. Locally, there isn't any classes anymore, so I follow online. And pretty much exactly what the Hatha has mentioned here is what we do with Kundalini. Yeah, I'm actually going to check the Hatha out. I've never looked at it before. There may be something locally where I can go and investigate and explore Hatha, because a class is always good to get to. But yeah, the mudras, the mulabandhas, the contraction and so forth with the flow. And the Kriyas are just so powerful. They place you into a state of complete relaxation, and your mind just empties out. And I find a class, and it's about an hour and a half, what I used to do, that energy state would stay with me for 3 or 4 days. They were so powerful. The Kriyas were so powerful. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. All right, so we have, through this session, we've covered, we've had an overview of the different darshanas, and we've really looked at the Sankhya philosophy and yoga, those two different philosophies. And so I think I'm going to leave it here, because the next session will be looking at the other philosophies in depth a little bit more. And I believe, Jasmine, you're teaching the next philosophy? Yeah, so Jasmine will come and teach those remaining ones that we didn't do a deep dive into today. But to wrap it all up, is there, Jasmine or Helena, any of the teachers, is there something that you would like to add to what we have put together today in regards to the Sankhya philosophy and the yoga, the philosophy of yoga?
I think we've wrapped it up really beautifully, Harmony. I don't think there's much more we can say. Just choose one practice and integrate it into your life. It is the experience of it. I do have this little statue here of Lord Dhanvantari. So he was gifted to me by a group of students one year when I was teaching the curriculum, and he travels with me everywhere. So continue to do the chanting as well. Practice that Lord Dhanvantari one, because we're really invoking that divine healer within ourselves, within each of us. And that chant has been chanted for centuries and centuries and centuries. So we're getting on that frequency, that energy, and that vibration level, which is the level of healing. So I just encourage to learn the words, so that when we start to chant to Lord Dhanvantari, we can all do it together and feel that resonance.
Yeah, beautiful. So maybe next week we'll all turn the mics off. On. Yeah, microphones on. Chant together.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you guys. I absolutely love the philosophy, because it's such a beautiful way of thinking, and it's something we're not taught in our traditional forms of school. So it is beautiful teachings. Does anyone else have any questions or anything that they would like to add to the teachings from today? Yes, Donna?
I have a real, I'll just say issue, I'll just say it, getting my tongue around the mantras. Even with Kundalini, I do. I'm not extremely fluent at all. Any ideas, any hints, please? My tongue just doesn't seem to maneuver.
Well, it is a whole another language, okay?
Yes,
So,
it is.
you know, it's okay. We do have the Sanskrit course as well as part of this program.
Yep, great.
So you can have a look at that, because we had Roshini, a beautiful Sanskrit teacher, come and teach that, and she teaches how to wrap your tongue around the different letters and goes through the alphabet. So maybe go and watch that and practice the alphabet, and then it's really just about practicing and finding the way that your mouth moves with the mantra.
Yep.
The other thing is to note, in Ayurveda, there's like we've got the Sanskrit language and then there's Hindi language, and sometimes the words can differ and the spelling can differ a little bit. And so often you might see a word written one way and then another way, and neither are right or wrong. So that's another thing to also be aware of. You might hear someone sing it one way and another the other way, and they can, not always be right or wrong. Yeah.
Lovely. So can I find that in our portal?
Yeah, the Sanskrit course.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
the way down the bottom. Also another one to remember, and Krishna Das, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a prominent kirtan singer. He would say, it's not about how you say the word, it's about the meaning behind it. So don't be too wrapped up in it being completely wrong, and feel that vibration. Suze.
I'm so sorry, Jasmine. I just read Helena's message and I was waving to her. She said she was leaving. I'm so sorry. I was listening to you, reading Helena and waving. Yeah. It was a busy moment.
No worries.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I love the energy on the live calls. So keep coming to the live calls when you can. I think you just absorb the teachings in a different way, because we can have those conversations. We can verbalize things amongst each other as well. And I will pop this recording in the portal by this afternoon. So if you want to watch any of it back, you can. But please think of how you're going to embody the yamas and the niyamas, and make yourself accountable, practice the tapas and the discipline to pop it in the Facebook group, so that we can all cheer you on in your evolution and your growth. And Shayla, make sure you join the Facebook group. All right, lovelies. I will see you next Tuesday. Jasmine will be continuing this class, but I will be on the call, and I will see you in the Facebook community as well.
Thank you,
everybody.